Hey, Planeswalkers, Mythras here. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. We got a lot going your way today. This is one of my favorite days. We have a tier list day. And so first, I really appreciate you watching this video and taking the time because we got a lot of stuff coming for you. We have a tier list. We have observations. And then I got 3 key decks that I do want to spend a moment on and talk to you about for our standard best of 3 tier list for today. So Planeswalkers, before we go check out this tier list, I just want to say thank you very much. I truly appreciate your support. If you liked the video, please like it. If you learned something, please like it. Additionally, please feel free to subscribe to the channel down over there. It's a great way to stay up to date on content like this and other ways to support the channel down below. But before we go check out this tier list here, a couple of things. First, of those of you that are new, those of you that are returning, I do a 1, 2, 3 tier list system. I stack rank the decks between all sorts of things. All the decks that I've played, all of the information I've read, win rates, statistics, multiple research information, whatever you name it. I've spent time pulling this together for you. So that is what the tier list is all about. And if you do have questions, if you do got comments, please let me know down below. I'm happy to help. I know I always get a lot of debate, but I will say this is something incredible today where we have 70 plus decks. Can you believe it? Zendikar Rising has been around for almost 3 months, and I've done almost a new deck every single day for you. Unique, competitive top decks. So let's go ahead and check out what we got going on. Here's what we got. These are the 3 decks that I will cover here. We're going to come back to that at the end of the session. Before you guys get in a hurry here, I do have the timestamps down below so you guys can check out those different portions that we talked about. And with that said, we do have 75 decks at max. Obviously, these are not the list. I got the list right here for you, so hang on for 1 second and we will check this sucker out. Now, quickly, Planeswalkers, this list, fully curated, is for you down below in the description. I can't get all the information. There's just too much. There's actually a cap in YouTube that I've now hit for the last 2 months in the description. Please go check out my website. It's got all the links to all the decks, all the deck lists, all that right there for you because I can actually control that a little bit better than I can control YouTube. So with that said, this is the tier list. Here's what we got going on. We'll talk about some of the key trends and observations here in a second because I do think it's important. The other thing that I want to call out is this tier 1 list, because there are 70 plus decks, we did 73 decks here in December, is a little bit wider. You could probably break this into 2, to be honest, if you wanted to. But again, holding to the format, holding to what we've been doing all year, this is what we have. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the observations. But our tier 1, we got Gruul Adventures, Dimir Rogues, Mono Green Food, Esper Doom, Dimir Yorion Control, and Temur Obosh Adventures. So those are really key staple decks here for our best of 3. Then as we get into the tier 2, we have Temur Ramp, Orzhov Yorion Doom, Rakdos Midrange, Rakdos Escape, Esper Doom, Mono Black Control, Mono Red Aggro, Mono Red Control, Dimir Flash, Selesnya Yorion, Mono Black Devotion, Mono Green, Abzan Doom, also known as Abzan Yorion Doom or Abzan Doom Foretold. I missed that one. Kind of funny. Mardu Yorion Doom, Selesnya Adventures, Sultai Midrange, Dimir Control, Azorius Yorion Blank, Boros Control, Abzan Midrange, Azorius Party, Mono White Life Gain, Mono White Auras, Boros Yor Cycling, Mono White Aggro, Temur Yorion, Orzhov Auras, Sultai Yorion Fae, Selesnya 4-power Aggro, Izzet Draw 2, Junsack, Orzhov Lurrus Aggro, Mono Blue Devotion, Orzhov Clerics, rounding out our tier 2. And then for our tier 3, we got Boros Winata Warriors, Sultai Gyruda Midrange, Naya Ramp, Dimir Mill, Jeskai Mill, Abzan Ultimatum, Mono Blue Control, Mono Black Enchantments, Golgari Adventure, Gruul Mutate, Simic Mutate, Naya Winata, Grixis Control, Selesnya Counters, Izzet Tempo, Boros Warriors, Rakdos Aggro, Boros Knights, Naya Kahira Control, Izzet Control, Sultai Karuga, Titan's Nest, 5-color Shrine, Sultai Emergent, Selesnya Landfall, Selesnya Enchantments, Abzan Mutate, Jeskai Yorion Control, Orzhov Aggro, Orzhov Party, Bat Control, Rakdos Midrange, Simic Kicker, Jeskai Spells. Whoa, man, 70 plus decks. Now, if anything, I hope you think that's impressive to some extent, and you guys stay tuned because we're going to do this all for January before Caldeum comes out, and I am pumped to continue to bring some of these top decks. So that is the list. Again, it is down below. If you do got questions or comments, let me know. I will say it does get harder due to the breadth of the decks, but on the flip side, this really goes to show you that it's a very, very healthy meta, and we're having a lot of fun with that. And I think that's a good segue into some of our observations. Now, for those of you that are new, those of you that are returning, I like to talk about some of the trends that happen over time. I think this is very important for us as competitive players, as new players, as players that like to have fun, just to be aware. And again, as you can see, there's a ton of things. And I do my best to kind of talk about some of the naming conventions in every video and talk about the objectives of those decks, and then obviously go and play those in competitive Magic for you so that you have a good idea. Oh, and speaking of competitive Magic, I am currently in the top 1,500, so pretty excited about that. Another reason here that you guys should stay tuned, because over the next couple of days here before the end of the year, we are going to have some fun with closing out the rest of these tier lists. So with that said, though, you guys are here, though, to continue to hear about the observations and trends. I'm going to put this list here again for you so that you guys can take a look at it as we're talking about some of these observations and trends that we may have. Now, with that, what's really important is a couple of key things. So as we look at that tier 1 list, we're really what I call stuck in the rut. So this is all about the current meta. This is the top end of the meta, and you could even go down a couple into tier 2, but the reality is, since probably Omnath ban pretty quickly past that, it was pretty much figured out. So at that point in time, given a lot of the tournaments, a lot of things that we've seen a couple things pop, definitely made an impact. I look at it as kind of whack-a-mole. So for instance, we had Selesnya Yorion pop up, and that came down. Then we had Midrange pop up, or actually it was Rakdos Midrange, then Selesnya Yorion, the rise of the Yorion decks, and then some of these other things. So these are all really important things to understand. Obviously, Mono Green Food made an impact as well. But a lot of key constructive decks like Gruul Adventures, Dimir Rogues, which was actually around pre-Omnath, is still a top deck. So why I like to talk about these observations is something to carry forward with you in your gameplay as we move into Caldeum, as we move into the future, in terms of some of these key decks that progress over time. Now, the second piece here is, as I like to say, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, winter is coming. This is the longest, and I will preach, this is the longest season that we have. We have like 4 months as Zendikar is rising. Now, we follow that after the Great Rotation. What's actually kind of unfortunate is actually the fact that we have less sets to play with, particularly in a very healthy meta like this, but that is a trade-off. Now, I do have one idea that I want to touch on that I think is, I don't know if it's been discussed. I actually haven't seen anything on it, but I could be wrong. However, I'd still like to just spend 1 second, well, probably more than 1 second, a moment of your time on it. I think, given the way that things have changed, given the platform, given this new environment that we play in, very, very rapid paced, very, very rapid to kind of figure out meta, transparency between content creators like myself, other sites where we can collect statistics, Untapped, MTG Assist, all those kinds of things that are out there. You guys can see that. We can manipulate very quickly and move and diverge and converge onto a meta all at the same point. And I think it's important for us as players to continue to test ourselves and to be challenged and be creative, particularly in my heart in terms of a Magic player and brewing. I think this is very important. Now, and you guys will laugh because I always cover other people's top decks. Yes, I can create my own top decks, but I enjoy covering other people's top decks. One, to also keep myself honest, is something that we could institute. So, Wizards, if you're listening, I call this the soft ban. And what we could do is month after month, and I really actually like the pace of the bans. Month after month, you could pick a couple of cards, remove those from the game, and institute those when a new set drops. Now, again, this is winter's coming. This is a longer season, set season in totality versus month over month. But you could consider that. You could consider banning a couple of key cards. You could take a couple out of Rogues or whatever's held up at the top here. Take a couple of those pieces, remove them from the game, and we could be competitive and creative all at the same time on a month over month basis. And then when the new set drops, bring them back. So you could call it like a slight soft ban, reserve list deal, whatever, and go from there. I think that would be a great idea. I think it'd be a lot of fun for us to continue to move that way. It'd also be challenging for a lot of the pros, and it'd have to make them keep bringing that A game. Not that they're not bringing the A game, but make them think a little bit more prior to going to some of these tournaments. And I would actually challenge you to do it like within a week before, or give them less time so that they can't actually try and test some of these things out, but rather make them try and anticipate some of those bans and figure out how to solve for that ahead of time. Next, what I would like to kind of talk about is what I'm calling an apple a day. So again, if you look at the breadth of this list, if there's anything I can say particularly about this meta, obviously it's very healthy, but for myself in terms of growth, you now have that ability, whether you guys follow me or not, I think anyone should constantly challenge themselves to play a new deck on a daily basis. And obviously I understand the free-to-play mechanics. I am primarily a free-to-play player myself. I covered some of that in the historic tier list. You guys can check that one out around the cost. But here's the thing. I think it's very important, I will tell you from my own personal experience in creating all these videos over the last year for you, is that I've become a much better player by playing a different deck daily. One, I get to see how it plays. I'm not playing 50 games with the deck, but I get a better understanding of the deck. And it teaches me how my opponents play, and it teaches me how I could play, and it teaches me how to counter and counterplay with some of those decks. So I think that's important. I think you guys should take that in consideration. If there's anything that I've learned this year, within my own creation here, that is something I would definitely take away for yourselves moving into 2021. Now, the other thing here that I do want to talk about is top 1500. So when you look at the decks that I've primarily spotlighted here over the last month of December, I generally do top 1500. And one of the things that I found that I have enjoyed doing is a lot of deck creation out of Platinum to Mythic 6+ wins. Now, it wasn't necessarily out of design, but the reality is it is a nod again to the tier 1 list. I don't like to cover something that is the same over and over again. There's a lot of players that play the same decks, and that's great. I have nothing against that. I would play those decks, obviously, in terms of depending on what I'm showing up to and the scope of what I'm playing against. I like to make tweaks. You guys know I'm a fan of the one-off. But what I'll say with that is December alone, there wasn't as many top 1500 decks that I brought. I do got one that we'll talk about here in a little bit that I just covered actually yesterday. And the reality is, with that said, that again shows two things. One, the convergence at the top end of the meta. Two, also the health of the meta in terms of some of these other deck mechanics that players are playing. So I encourage you to explore your own competitive nature, particularly as we move into next year in January. Try some of these things out. I will tell you, if there's anything that you should notice when I did show my rank, is I've played all these decks Some of them work well, some of them don't. Some of the new stuff is definitely tier 2, not tier 1, but definitely very competitive. We'll talk about some of that here in a little bit. But it's going to make you a better player. And additionally, I can make top 1500 playing all this stuff. You guys certainly can too. So it's going to make you a better player. So I do just want to call that out. And then last but not least, finally, Happy New Year. If this is the last video that you guys watch before next year, or the first or the last video that you watch of mine, I just want to say Happy New Year. And also Happy Holidays. I think, and honestly, I want to wish each and every one of you and your loved ones a safe, Happy New Year. And I look forward, I truly do look forward to continuing these conversations, continuing these top decks that I cover into next year. And I always appreciate your lists that you guys love to submit, and any constructive feedback. I definitely got things that I want to improve on next year and things that I want to change. So stay tuned. I'm gonna do my best to improve on some of those things. Now, with that said, Planeswalkers, that kind of concludes some of the observations pieces of today's session. Yeah, it's like therapy for both of us. Today's session. But with that, again, I truly appreciate your support. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel down over there. Additionally, like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Twitch, stay up to date on daily content like this. Other ways to support the channel down below in the description, like becoming a patron or a YouTube member. Lots of great ways for us to interact and benefits. And then also, as you guys saw my rank, I do track that and share publicly my Untapped profile, so you guys can follow that. And if you want to share yours with me or your friends, or track your statistics, I do have the companion app link down there as well for you, so you can do that. So last but not least, I do want to spend a couple minutes talking about some of these key decks here. So we'll go ahead and check that out. In terms of 3 key decks that I'd say that I not only enjoyed over the month of December, but I did find to make an impact. And if there's anything that you should play in January, I would say at least these 3 in terms of something fun, something creative and competitive, and definitely a new top deck. So I'll start with the new top deck. This is the Rakdos Escape deck. Many of you, in form of conversation, whichever it is, and obviously you guys feel free to hop in the Discord channel and shoot it with us down there. But this Rakdos Escape deck does look like a Rakdos Midrange deck. And in fact, it's pretty close. But there are a couple of key differences. You guys can go check the video out that I did specifically on this one. But the creature focus is different. And additionally, it shows up with much more enchantments. And then everything else is at instant speed. And this is a very creative footfall creator, which I like in this deck actually a lot. And the only sorcerer speed spell is the Mortal Land. So this is a very powerful deck. I had a lot of fun playing it. You guys can check out the video. I think it's very competitive. Obviously, it's number 1. And it's got a nice sideboard with it. It does run 4 lilies. I threw in 2 Croxes there because, again, saving for Chaldeum as a free-to-play player as much as I can be. Something you guys can think about there. So that is one deck I do want to highlight. I think it holds up well against the late game meta, does well against the early game, and then obviously in terms of the mid range, it plays pretty fair there. Even though I did not, I was not successful against the mid range battle in my best of 3. But you guys can go ahead and check that out. But best of 1. Definitely had one of my favorite highlights of the year there with that first matchup. Next, I have a Abzan midrange. So this to me is a very fun competitive deck. It's a good alternative take, and I think Abzan could be fairly well positioned moving into Chaldeum. We'll see. Some of the spoilers have been pretty nice. There's a lot of things. One call out here, and in terms of my MVP, is Mythos Nethroi. This card is awesome. It destroys enchantments. A lot of people miss that. It hits a lot of things. A lot of people miss that. Keep it into consideration. This thing will continue to be a powerhouse within the Abzan mechanic, in my opinion, or archetype. This thing plays really, really well. I really had a lot of fun playing this deck. Quite possibly one of my favorites, to be honest, for December, which is also why I'm highlighting it. And jokingly, it's not the Abzan Siege Rhino deck, but it's got something else to it, and it's pretty fun. So I think you guys should absolutely take a look. In terms of the sideboard, again, lots of great things. Lots of things you can obviously optimize if you want, but I'm a huge fan of Field of Ruin. I do talk about that a little bit more in the video, so you guys can check that one out. Now, the last but not least deck that I do want to cover is a super, super fun combo deck. This Mono Blue Devotion deck was more heavily ran prior to Zendikar's Rising, but also still has a really, really nice place in Zendikar's Rising. One of the few, in my opinion, you guys can go check everything out, but one of the few true kind of combo decks, in my opinion, that you can make work. It finishes very well at turn 5, if you can get there, obviously. So you're gonna struggle against kind of the aggro decks. The mid-range will be okay. I did beat a Gruul aggro with this one. You guys can check the video out. But it should hold up against some late range game decks. This thing was a top 1,000 deck, but also a 6+ platinum to mythic deck. And again, lots of options for you guys, but certainly a very, very fun one. And if anything, in terms of honing in on your skills and some of your gameplay and learning combos, this is a nice one to start with in terms of standard. And then as we look into the sideboard, it really moves from a straight up combo to a kind of blue control combo deck, which is kind of fun too. So Planeswalkers, let's go back here. These are the 3 decks that I wanted you guys to see. Because I think it's pretty important. I'm going to put that back there. Pretty important, at least in terms of December, that I had fun with, that I had impact with, that I wanted to share. I don't want to cover all 73. It's not good for me. It's probably not good for you, but you should definitely check them out individually, and that's why they're all down below for you. And if not, go check out my website, and you'll get access to all that stuff. But these 3 are definitely very, very fun. Now, Planeswalkers, as I like to bid you adieu, would just like to say again, truly, thank you. If you don't watch anything else, this is your first video. If this is your last video, I hope not. I do appreciate your view. I appreciate your time. And I would appreciate your continued support by either liking it, subscribing to the channel down over there. Plus, you guys can stay in touch for next year. And then additionally, other ways to support down below. I really, really hope you guys enjoy it. This is one of my favorite things to do for you. It does take a lot of time, but it's worth it. You guys are worth it. And I enjoy doing this and enjoy making this a continuation into next year. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed the key observations, and I hope you guys enjoyed the 3 decks that I wanted to spotlight for you that were impactful for me going into the December season. Kind of funny beginning, middle, and end of the season nonetheless. And with that said, if you do got questions, comments, let me know down below. Discord channel down below. Planeswalkers, I hope you guys enjoyed it. A huge list. Seriously, continue to have fun. We talked about a lot of cool ideas, things that be cool to see, but also a lot of great decks. And you guys keep it up. Love seeing your stuff. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Many of you do. Please continue to do so. I love covering your things. And if you do want some QA one-on-one in terms of some of the deck lists that you guys are procuring, feel free to become a patron or a YouTube member. That's one of the benefits that I provide, is QA in your deck list. So, Planeswalkers, with that said, until next time, you guys stay safe. Stay tuned. We got a lot more coming your way here for the end of the year, and a lot more coming your way in terms of next year. We got a couple more tier lists coming for December, and I look forward to doing that. Now, again, take care. We'll see you soon. Stay safe. Until next time, Mythras out.